Good morning. Welcome to the garden. I'm glad you've elected to be here with us today. This is a topic that I don't believe we've ever dealt with before here, and it came from our message team, which is the group of folks that suggest ideas for Sunday services. And incidentally, if any of you have an idea of something you'd like to see addressed on Sunday morning, just drop it in the watering cans or any way you'd like to let us know, because we're always open to new ideas and new topics to think about and with you and to share with you. But anyway, this one came up, and the sandwich generation, and I don't remember exactly the circumstances, although I'm assuming that it came from someone who had either been in that situation or was anticipating being there or was in that place right then and there. So I think it's important to note it. Now, I went to try to gather more information. I went to a website that's called sandwichgeneration.com, and there it gave the basic definition that it's someone who parents their parents while at the same time parenting their children. But that isn't a term that was at all familiar with anyone back in the 1990s. In fact, if you'd ask anybody, they would have said it's a piece of meat between two slices of bread. That's a sandwich. Well, that term actually was coined by someone by the name of Carol Abaya. And she meant to talk about how it feels to be kind of sandwiched in between various kinds of responsibilities. And so, and it's a common term now. It's in the Oxford English Dictionary and the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, so it's a real term. It's actually recognized and used. She also coined some other terms that I don't know if they've made the cut yet to get into dictionaries or not. For example, she calls something the club sandwich generation. And she refers to one of two groups of people, either those who are in their 50s and 60s who are dealing with aging parents and their grown children and their grandchildren, or those who are in their 30s and 40s who are dealing with their growing children, their aging parents, and their aging grandparents. And then she coined another term as well that's called open-faced. And this is anyone who's involved with elder care at all. Now, what occurs to me is while the term may be relatively new, the care is not. That's something that's been going on for generation after generation. In fact, I remember when I was a little girl that my mom cared for her parents as they were growing frail and then eventually died. And my dad and his siblings did the same thing for his mother. And so that kind of care has been going on for a long, long time. However, according to Pew Research, there is sort of a new twist to all of this. What Pew Research discovered is that people in the 40 to 59 age group have given financial support to a grown child sometime within the last year. And there are many who are both taking care of aging parents and supporting grown children. So that's a whole new dimension that has just arisen since the last research they had done in 2005. Well, the reality is, I think most of us in our best place want to take care of our loved ones as they age or as they deal with some of life's difficulties. We think that's our role, and it's something we really want to do. And yet, it's a very difficult thing to do, regardless of the situation. Even if an aging loved one is in a retirement facility of some sort, that's still something that requires a great deal of us, because we want to oversee and make sure they're getting the right kind of care, and it's all appropriate. It also could include some major financial obligations, and it simply can be stressful. It's something we want to do, but it creates a lot of stress in the process. Now, in the past, baby boomers have been the ones who have done the majority of the parenting of aging parents while at the same time raising their kids. But that's all changed too. That's something else that's changed since 2005. Now it's the Gen Xers who are doing that, because baby boomers themselves are aging. And so the Gen Xers, those in between, I guess, 34 to 49 or something like that, now are the ones, 42% of them are actually helping to raise their own children and at the same time care for aging parents. So it doesn't really matter where we are, whether we've been there, whether we are there. At some point we may be there. And this seems to be a topic that applies to all of us in one way, shape, or form. And it is also something where we seem to be living the Bible passage we have for today. Now, this passage is from 1 Timothy. We've talked about Timothy before, those writings. No one knows who Timothy was or if there was a Timothy. This was long attributed to Paul, but scholars are pretty sure it wasn't Paul who wrote it because of the timing and the style and such. And it's talking about a situation that was very prevalent in that society of that time. And it talks particularly about widows who are destitute. But as we read it and look at it and think about it, I'd like us to broaden that a little bit, to think about those loved ones who are aging and kind of make it a little broader category. This is how it reads. Take care of widows who are destitute. If a widow has family members to take care of her, let them learn that religion begins at their own doorstep, and that they should pay back with gratitude some of what they have received. This blesses God immensely. Basically, what that's saying is that caring for those loved ones who are growing older is an act of love on our part, and it is an act of faith. It's part of what it means to be a faithful person. Nonetheless, this experience can be extremely stressful. It can be really hard to try to pursue our own careers and have our own lives and keep our own routines at the same time that we're caring for our children and for our parents. It's very difficult. I read that there are some 2 million residents in 18,000 nursing homes, but yet the primary person who gives care happens to be a family member of one kind or another. So, given all that, how do we manage this situation? Where do we begin? What do we do? And I think it begins with a really serious self-reflection. You know, what are we capable of doing? What can we do? It really means we have to have some good self-awareness of what we are able to do and what we simply cannot do. And then we have to be open and honest with that and to share realistically what's feasible, what's possible for us. That's an important thing. We need to recognize that if we commit ourselves, and we're going to commit ourselves to some degree or not, when we commit ourselves, there's a learning curve involved here. This is brand new territory. Most of us have never been there before. And we have to figure things out. And the reality is, we're going to make mistakes. Not everything's going to be done perfectly. And in fact, you know, nothing will be done perfectly, probably, because we're not perfect people. We'll make mistakes. We don't say the right thing. We don't do the right thing sometimes. So it's important to be filled with grace toward ourselves as well, to give ourselves a break and to realize that that's just part of what it means to be human. Our motives are right, we're trying to do the right thing, and yet sometimes it just comes out wrong. So we need to understand that. There are some other hints that were given on ways to help us deal with this situation in our lives. One of them was the importance of asking for help. Many of us are not very good at that. We like to at least look as though we've got it all together and we don't need anyone or anything to help us out. We can throw all these balls in the air and balance them all and catch them all when we need to. And it's just not true of any of us. None of us is able to do that kind of thing. And so it's important that we recognize that and we ask a friend or a neighbor or another family member to spell us for a while, to give us a little break. We need a little respite. And we need that time. Maybe it's a couple of hours, maybe it's a morning, maybe it's an entire day. We need an opportunity to get away, to take a break, to maybe go to an exercise class or take an art class, or maybe it's going to a movie or just taking a walk or sitting on a park bench. We just need that break. You know, a clinical social worker whose name was Jewel Dallas Bruner said, there has to be a boundary so that they can actually take care of themselves and keep themselves healthy, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. The only way that we can come back refreshed and renewed and re-energized is by getting away some, having that break, the break that was talked about in the film that we're seeing here, when Herbie was with her brother, and so that really made a difference for her, and we all need that kind of break. And there's something else we have to think about too, and taking care of ourselves and getting that break is also we have to be careful of our own health. You saw that evidenced in the movie as well. You know, when we are caring for an aging parent, we are taking them to their doctor's appointments. We are making sure we understand what's going on there, and we're monitoring their medications. We need to be as attentive to our own health as well, because if our health breaks, we're not of any good to anyone. We have to be there. We have to take care of ourselves. If we get too run down, if we get sick, then we can't be helpful. In fact, it really complicates the entire situation. And there's something else that we probably could benefit from, and that's learning the word no. To be able to say no. Again, we don't like to tell somebody, no, we can't do that, or no, that won't work for us, because we want people to like us. We want people to think we're okay and that we can do all of this kind of thing. But it's important, I think, when we're in this kind of situation to set our priorities, to understand what's most important, and then to streamline our lives, if that's what it takes, to really be able to do what's necessary, to take care of ourselves, to take care of a loved one, and then also to do what we have to do for our family. It's important to be able to say no, and you may need to say no, not now, no, not at this moment, maybe sometime later, because this isn't necessarily a permanent state in which we find ourselves. So it's something we need to learn how to do. Something else we need to do is to realize that we are humans. We do have limitations. And there are some things we're good at, some things we're not so good at. And so it's helpful if we don't beat ourselves up, saying we should have done that, I wish we had done this, we could have done that. That doesn't get us anywhere. It doesn't move us forward. So it's important to let that go and just be realistic about who we are as a caregiver. Something else that was shown in the movie that I think is important for us to think about is how we can include children in that process. Kids like to learn. They learn pretty quickly, and they really like to help someone else. So I think it's important if we help them understand what that looks like and how they can do that and how important it is to be there for an aging family member. It really can make a big difference for them. And there are sometimes I talk to parents who are afraid to share some of the facts of a health situation that's going on with a loved one. And this is just me speaking, but I'm in favor of sharing, at least at a level that kids can understand whatever's going on. They sense it anyway if there's something wrong. So we might as well be honest and share with them what's happening there. And let them realize that this is normal, it's healthy, it's part of the life cycle, because it helps prepare them in a much better way for what they're going to face in the rest of their lives. You know, Mike and I have been there. We cared for both sets of parents as they were growing older. They were not located here nearby, and so it was a bit different and a bit stressful, I can tell you. It was hard to be there all the time or to do what we needed to do. It was costly in many different ways. And yet, when it was all said and done, we were really glad that we had done it. Not that it was an easy thing to do, but we were glad we had done it. And part of the reason we were glad we had done it was because, in some sense, we got a chance to take care of them as they had taken care of us. It wasn't done perfectly, nor had their care for us been perfect. It wasn't done maybe the best way it could have been done, but it was a gift that we felt we had the opportunity to give. And if you're in that situation, I hope that that's the way it is for you too.